There's something really, really satisfying, I think, about a Spritz cookie. Have you guys ever made Spritz cookies? They're those cookies that are little shapes and you put them in a tube and you press them out. First of all, the dough is really easy, but then you get to make your cookies into whatever shape you want. You can vary it as much as you want to because there's all these little discs. It's really, really fun, and the dough is really easy. So I'll start off by showing you the dough for this Peppermint-Spritz cookie, and then we're gonna make some wreaths. In this mixer, I have a half a cup of sugar and 1.5 sticks of butter. That just needs to cream until light and fluffy. You could do this by hand too if you wanted to, but I do find that mixing it in the machine makes a really nice pliable dough, and if you have one, why not use it? If your butter is nice and warm, it shouldn't take very long for it to get creamy. And for this dough in particular, you actually do want it sort of on the warmer side of room temperature as opposed to the cooler, so that it presses through your press a little more easily. Actually, I'll show you what the press looks like. Here's a cookie press. I don't know if you guys have seen these before. You can get them from lots of different brands, and you fit your cookie press with a disc. This is the wreath disc. That's what I'm using for this cookie. You could really use whatever disc you want. It depends on what shape. You can get Christmas trees, you can get all kinds of shapes. When I was growing up, me and my mom used to make these kinds of cookies all the time, so I feel like I have a soft spot in my heart for them, even though sometimes they can be a little fuzzy. Hopefully this one won't be fuzzy at all. When your butter and sugar are creamy, you can add the rest of your ingredients. You really just add them one at a time. It's 1 large egg. You can add that, beat it in. A teaspoon of pure peppermint extract. I'm making these peppermint wreaths. You could use vanilla if you didn't want peppermint. This is 1 tablespoon of milk. Oops. I meant to turn it off, but I turned it up. I'm gonna scrape down the sides. And then you add your flour. This recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. And unlike most of our recipes, I'm not even whisking these ingredients together before I add them. I'm just gonna add them directly to the mixer. It's 1 3/4 cups of flour and 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Just think of the bowls you're saving from washing by not whisking together your ingredients. It's less important, I guess, because we don't have any leavener in here, and with leavener it's very important to mix really well. Today, going crazy. Okay, that's it. The dough is done. It's super duper simple. It doesn't have a leavener in it because you want a nice tender cookie like this that's not gonna puff up because you want it to keep its shape, right? So that's the whole idea of these, is that they have a nice shape. So no leavener. It's kind of a soft dough. I think that's gonna work really well once I put it into my cookie press. You open up your press, fill your cookie press with the dough. This is quite soft, so I'm just putting a little bit of flour in my hand and rolling it into a little ball to put it in. You want it soft but not mushy, so we'll see how this goes. Then you just press and lift. And depending on how you've set your little wheel, more or less dough will come out. So you sort of, in the beginning, you may need to adjust it to get it to be exactly the way that you want, but then you'll find a sweet spot. And the great thing about these is that if you don't like the shape of your cookie, you can just lift it up, put it back in with the rest of the dough, and then put it back in when you refill your press. So you just keep pressing and lifting and pressing and lifting until it's empty, and then you can refill it and have your oven preheating to 350 degrees. If you want these to really, really hold their shape really well, you can chill them briefly if you'd like to, and that will help them hold their shape. Sometimes I get really, really anal and I go in and I like clean out all the little like hanging bits and stuff, but that's just crazy and you don't need to do that. You just need to make delicious cookies. That's good, that's it. I can't stop myself now because I'm having so much fun. They're not gonna rise too much, so don't worry about it if you go too close to the edge. You want to bake these until they're set and lightly golden around the edges. That'll take about 12 to 14 minutes. So when your cookies are done, you want to let them cool completely so that you can decorate them. And in this bowl, I have a glaze that I made. So this glaze is made with about 2 cups of confectioner's sugar and then 3 tablespoons to a 1/4 cup of milk and a tiny bit of peppermint or vanilla extract, depending on what you like. And then I'd like to make these look sort of like those swirly peppermint candies that you get. So I'm gonna add a couple drops of red food coloring to just a small amount of my glaze. I'm doing this in small batches because, well, you'll see what happens is that as you're dipping, the red swirls into the white and then it becomes pink. So you only want to do a couple tablespoons or a 1/4 cup at a time so that you can continue to get the cute swirls and you don't end up with all of your cookies being pink. And then take your cookie and dip it in top side first and then lift out. And you should get a nice swirly top, and it looks, I mean, it doesn't look exactly like those candies, but I think that it sort of mimics them a little bit, and it definitely gives the idea that these are peppermint cookies. I want to make sure that I'm removing some of the glaze from the center of these wreaths because the hole is kind of small, and if you don't remove it before it dries, it'll dry right over. The other thing that you can do if you want to, and you want like a little bit more red, is add a tiny drop directly onto your cookie and then swirl it in with a toothpick, and that will give you additional swirly red effect like that, which I think is really nice. This is a gel food coloring, which is much thicker than some of the food colorings that we use here in the kitchen, so it's actually working really nicely for the swirling because it's not distributing too quickly into your glaze. Continue your swirling with your toothpick and you get a really cute peppermint swirl spritz cookie. Aren't those cute? You can decorate these really however you want. I thought this was a nice little touch, but if you don't feel like making yours peppermint swirl, sprinkle them with sugar, put nonpareils on them, sprinkle them with dragées. You go crazy. Choose how you decorate them to suit your personality. Enjoy.